welcome to the inaugural episode of CineVibe, one of these weird podcasts that are started by two random dudes on the internet. So right now you're listening to Micah. I'm one of our hosts on this show, and the other one is...
And I am James.
What's up, James? James and I are pretty good friends. We're just going to kind of give you a lowdown on who we are. So James, you want to go ahead and tell them who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I actually currently I'm still at Ball State. I only have about a month left, and getting my degree in filmmaking. Others will say TCOM, but if you're talking to Micah and I, it's filmmaking. It's not
let's
TCOM.
Be honest. That is filmmaking. Let's be very clear. Every time we talk about it, it's gonna be filmmaking.
Yep.
Let's be honest with that one. My name is Micah. I used to go to Ball State University. I graduated about 2 years ago. Now I'm a free bird, no longer there. I am working. I was working freelance for about a year, but now I am in sales. But that does not mean we're not still making content. This is actually our first time getting together to do a podcast, so we're pretty excited about that.
For sure.
So, James, let's kind of give a breakdown on how we met. Kind of an interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. See, we had it was TCOM 101 together, right?
We had TCOM 101, yeah. We didn't even know each other in TCOM 101, though.
Yeah. It was, what was it, club?
Yeah, it was the first night of Cardinal Filmworks,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, and I think when it really kicked off was when I made that pitch about the first film that we actually did together. When I went up there and made that pitch, and then I think me, you, and Bryson actually linked up after that, and then here we are. Gosh, how many years is that?
I think that's been about 4 years now.
Yeah.
4 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Bryson Maish if you're listening to our podcast. Yep. So Bryson and I, junior year, just throwing it back. So junior year at college, we were about to go off to this. My friend Bryson and I were about to go to this meeting for film enthusiasts, as it were, at Ball State University. And so we headed off there, and we found this guy, the young little scrappy dude, he just was tagging along with us. We were like, who's this weird dude just following us around? And it was the one and the only James Rossman right behind me. And he's like, hey, dudes, you guys going to this meeting? And we're like, yeah. And that was the beginning of what you're experiencing right now. Yeah. So it was a great time. We ended up making a couple films that year. That was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we ended up partnering up again a couple times and the year after, actually, in some school projects.
Yeah, in advanced video. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what do we plan for this podcast, James? Do you know kind of what we're expecting to do with this thing? Because I sure do. Do you know what we're doing?
Yeah, for the most part. Between talking about movies and then
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, we're big film fans, as you probably can guess from just the name of this podcast. But we also want to kind of dig into life in general and kind of what kind of things we interest us in day-to-day life, including and not limited to probably music, theater, all different types of art, and then also just kind of some stuff we're learning along the way, because we're trying to use this as almost kind of a way to help us with creative slumps and get us back into making stuff and getting us back into being just creative people in general. Isn't that right, James?
Yeah, because it's been a while since we've actually, I've actually done something. We keep texting back and forth. We're like, oh man, we really need to do this. We really need to do that. And then it's just oh crap.
Exactly. And plus, when we do hang out, we end up talking quite a bit. So I think us getting together to actually be able to record our thoughts down.
Yeah.
Our conversations are already about 2-3 hours alone. So
exactly.
being able to get together and talk about them is even better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of the segments we just kind of wanted to start off with today was kind of about upcoming movies we are excited for. Now, there's a lot of them coming out. I think one of the big ones that we are the most excited for is Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
So what's kind of thrilling you the most about that one, James?
Well, it was kind of interesting because the other day, I think it was yesterday, I read an article. It was they said that Avengers Endgame is expected to make like 870 million in its first weekend, which just blows every single movie out of the water. And it's expected to like be number 1 of all time.
That's insane.
Like, yeah. So I'm expecting.
Not to mention the runtime is ridiculous.
Yeah. 3 hours and 2 minutes, I think it is.
3 hours and 2 minutes. Now everybody's talking about how like they're not like, oh man, this movie's so long, I don't even know if I can sit through it all. I'm just thinking, I'm gonna bring a catheter bag. That's what I'm gonna do. There's no way I'm leaving that theater to miss anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many people at Ball State be like, oh, there needs to be intermission. I'm like, there's not much difference between 2.5 hours and 3 hours. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, your bladder can probably get a little full, but just hold in
exactly
and make it through the movie.
Yep.
Wow, yeah. Not to mention, I'm excited to see what happens after that giant snap. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Where is everybody going to come from? Are they coming back? Are they just gone forever? Like, it's some serious stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the trailer that we got for it, like, it didn't tell us much, it was just kind of bits, fragments really, where it just was like, okay, well, yeah, I really want to see this.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, it's wrapping up one of probably the biggest series of our history so far.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
I
mean, Marvel movies now we're thinking about like Iron Man kind of kicked it off, but that was like, what was that, like 2009?
Yeah, around there, I think. Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah. So, I mean,
2009.
Think about that. Marvel's been around 10 years. I mean, longer than that with the comics and stuff, but like,
yeah,
when you're talking about movies, about 10 years of movies, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, really. And it's like, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end because, your main guys, Chris Evans, his contract is up, and I seen where he wants to go do theater, or he wants to make a musical.
Wow, he's actually wanting to make musicals.
Yeah,
Chris Evans in a musical. now that I would have to see. I definitely want to see him, up there with his beard singing and stuff. That'd be cool. I'd be excited for that.
The one thing I am gonna miss about Endgame though is Captain America's beard.
Oh yeah. Is he shaving that thing off?
Yeah.
I think I saw in the promotional photos he was all clean shaven again.
Yeah, I'm like, oh dang.
I was like, yeah, we're losing out on the Rogue.
Exactly.
That Rogue Knight. So as far as like other movies we're kind of interested in, I think one of the ones, now we happen to be pretty big Tarantino fans.
Mm-hmm.
Now a lot of people love him or hate him. A lot of people are like really severely against Tarantino all the time. And for us, I know we're like super excited. We love dialogue for some reason.
Yep.
And long ass movies. So I think that this is pretty exciting for us. And I mean, his newest film coming out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I mean, you got an all-star cast going on that one now.
For sure, yeah, because it's Brad Pitt,
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Leonardo,
Margot Robbie's in it. I know, he's just talking about a solid cast. Now, let's be honest, the promotional poster was kind of lax. It was not what we would have expected.
Yeah,
from Tarantino
exactly.
Usually, but I'm pretty excited for that one too. I mean, anytime I can get a Tarantino film, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, really. Comes out, this summer, the end of July. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
The last one we saw together, we saw Hateful Eight together, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it was either that or one of his last films that we seen together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight was pretty good. I liked. It's incredible how much dialogue he can fit into a single room movie.
I mean, yeah.
Most of that movie takes place in one room, and you got people. And you can keep it interesting, that's pretty hard to do. I'm not entirely sure if I could make that seem that interesting.
Yeah, dialogue, man. It's just one of those things. It's either you got it or you don't really. And to be able to for him to write that much for one character to speak is pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I also heard he's making a Star Trek movie. It's also in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, it's going to be rated R. So a Star Trek movie that's rated R for the first time. And who do we got cast in that one? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't.
Yeah, let me just pull that up real quick.
Okay.
Here. Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see his take on it because, the other ones, directed, or the first two directed by J.J. Abrams, I mean, his style and Tarantino's is, Granted, is it a revamp?
It is a reboot, is what it's saying. Yeah. So it's a reboot of I guess the newest series. That's what he's rebooting. So
gotcha.
Yeah, let's see. Let's go over to IMDb. Let's see what they're saying over there. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the J.J. Abrams ones. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of those lens flares.
Oh, yep, I know. Yeah, I was actually telling my girlfriend the other day, we were watching something I don't remember, and I was like, man, there's so many lens flares in this. I was like, yep. When Mike and I start doing things again, you bet those will be in. They'll be in there.
Looks like that the full cast and crew has not yet been announced, so that's kind of interesting. It looks like as far as cast confirmed, Damon Emmons, no idea who that is.
No,
but he is on the flight crew, so we're happy to have him on there.
Yeah, that would be. When does it say when it comes out?
It does not. It does not. So I'm guessing it's in very early production.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, so right here it's looking like Tarantino came up with the story, but then we've got other people who are helping write on the screenplay, so that's nice. Yep, surprisingly, because I mean Tarantino's all about his writing.
That's what I was thinking. Wow.
And then, so on your list over there, James, any movies that you're kind of interested to see that are also out there?
Yeah, I know next Saturday we're going to go see Shazam, so I'm really excited for that because that's kind of, it's like DC's secondary characters almost like are being, their films are being better than like what Batman and Superman's are.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Insane.
I mean, when we're thinking about like superhero and Batman, they're supposed to be like the top superheroes out of the DC universe, and we're ending up with Wonder Woman being the best film of all time out of the DC universe right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm hoping that Shazam meets that. I mean, I don't know if it can really blow it away, but I'm thinking it can get kind of close.
Yeah, I really like the director, David F. Sandberg. He did Annabelle. He did Lights Out.
Oh wow! Okay, so it's a horror movie director now directing a superhero movie.
Yeah, well, he was like I was watching an interview with him, and he said that he's like if Shazam just completely plummets, he's like I can always go back to horror. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like those are oddly similar, when it comes to genres. I mean, you got all that suspense going on, but you're still looking at like super different areas of like how you would edit that film, how you'd write the film.
Yeah.
Even coming down to like sound design would be completely different. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think I'm excited for it. I mean, I like the main guy who's playing the actual character of Shazam, like from Chuck. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see that because, I mean, I love Chuck. Chuck's kind of about like a place where I might be working at. I don't know. So it's kind of a little close to home about the storyline, but I mean, I kind of like it, so I'm excited to see him in that movie. And, I mean, the actors in it, like the younger kids, like they've been in a number of things, so I'm excited to see them again.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So do you have another one you're holding out for?
Not really. I mean, I'm kind of interested in seeing Us by Jordan Peele. So, I mean, Jordan Peele is going to be kind of an interesting guy to kind of pay attention to in the next decade or so.
For sure.
Because, I mean, as we saw with, like, Get Out, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it, like, dominated. So, I mean, Us, from what I've heard, everybody's loving it right now. So I'm really interested in seeing it.
It is very good. I went to go see it, I think it was last weekend. So
I think we might be, like, entering in a whole new genre of horror films.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like... Yep. The way his style is so unique, and it's kind of, if he keeps making movies the way he is, I mean, we could see another auteur, but, I mean, you don't see a lot of auteurs nowadays, but I think he might be developing his own style to kind of match ranks up there with the greatest filmmakers.
Yeah, because he actually, there was an article I was reading, and he was, as him and 7 other African-American directors, and that had films that broke the $100 million mark and like, revenue and stuff like that in the box office. So I was like, oh,
it's crazy to see a guy go from being on like one of the biggest comedy shows, Key and Peele, to then now being one of the top directors to kind of pay attention to now.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible to see such a turn from like comedy to horror But I mean, a lot of people, if you ask them, they're like, "Oh yeah, horror and comedy are pretty similar when you're like talking about like movies." But
Yeah.
I mean, to see an actor switch over and all of a sudden be this mastermind director is pretty insane.
Yeah. Well, he was in an interview and he said that they keep asking him if there's a link between Get Out and Us, if they're in the same realm, and he's like, "Well, I can nor confirm nor deny." I was like, that should be interesting.
Oh boy. So I think like what we wanted to kind of bounce to next were like some of our influences, like personally in our own lives, and then like also when it comes to art. And one of the big ones for me is definitely Wes Anderson.
Yep.
You know, his style is very unique. I really like how dogmatic his style is, like because he goes from being, you know, his movies tend to be pretty laid back, you know, pretty laid back as far as films go, but then he's got this very minute attention to detail when it comes to like color, costuming design, when it comes down to like just even set design, hairstyle, all of that is dominated by like his specific vision for everything. And I think that type of directing is like really cool, and it creates movies that are almost picture book-esque.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of sad that like not really a lot of people, you know of him. So it's kind of like, oh, well, man.
It's pretty interesting how he's usually an independent filmmaker when it comes down to it. You know, he kind of likes to make his own films when he wants to make them, and not so much on like a studio type schedule.
Yeah, because his last one actually came out in theaters. It was
Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Isle of Dogs. I didn't get a chance to see that one yet. Big fan of him, but I didn't see it. So
yeah, I didn't either, which was very surprising. Don't know why exactly.
I mean, it's stop motion, so stop motion is kind of a narrowed market nowadays. But I think, like from what I could even just see from the trailer, it looked amazing. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, with my schedule being the way it is. But I'm definitely getting around to it as soon as I can.
Yep.
What when it comes to not Tarantino? I got a little
bit. One of them.
Got a little bit of Tarantino on the mind. When it comes down to Wes Anderson, what's your favorite film?
Oh, shoot. I think his first one, which was what?
Bottle Rocket?
Yeah, yep. I think that's probably because I don't have all of his films. I have the first 4, so I think the first one is my favorite.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of obsessed. So
because you have all of them, right?
I have all his Criterion releases. Now, for those of you who don't know, Criterion is kind of these collector versions of movies. People who are like diehard film fans, they'll probably understand where we're kind of coming from with this. But it's kind of a director approved like special edition of a movie where they also include a whole bunch of extra behind the scenes footage, extra like some brochures and stuff inside the case. It's kind of like a collector's version of that movie. And Wes Anderson kind of has his own special agreement, or contract with them, and he's able to actually put out them pretty regularly. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten the other one, the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, he couldn't get that one out yet, which I've been waiting for.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, as soon as that one comes out, I'm definitely picking that one up.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually just at Barnes & Noble's yesterday, and I was looking at the Criterion Collection, and I was like, oh, I could definitely spend a lot of money. But they go on sale twice a year, right?
They do, yeah. They go on sale usually around the holidays and then in the summer.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you guys are listening. You guys are film fans. Definitely keep that in mind because you can get them half off. So that's pretty cool. And then, who would be one of your influences, James?
I would say the number one would definitely be James Gunn. Not just because his name is James, but when when Guardians Volume 1 first came out, it was just kind of like, separate from all the mainstream Marvel movies, and not many people knew about Guardians.
Yeah.
Except your comic book readers. So once he made that, and when he made Volume 2, he's just a very down to earth guy, and he Yeah, I think he's one of the few directors that actually like, do more things for the fans. Like, he'll do Facebook Lives a lot. In the past he has, and that I think that's just something really cool. He answers questions from like other filmmakers, and so yeah, I think he's probably, I would say, my number one favorite filmmaker of all time.
Yeah, definitely. His music, the way he works music into his films, is like one of the biggest things for me in particular. Just to see how he's able to, because like sound design is one thing, but to be able to take your music and find like, because from what I've heard, he picks out the music first, right? Is that one of those things?
Yeah.
So he takes the music first, and then he can kind of use that to write his script, which I think is pretty crazy and kind of makes him a very unique director.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like, that would be insanely hard, I think. Like,
I guess you can use that as kind of like a way to visualize the story. A lot of people, when they're listening to music, they're kind of visualizing things. So I think to be able to use that is kind of a big thing. And the way he works it in with all those, like the tape references, like the like mixtapes and stuff. Like that's pretty cool how he works that in.
Yeah, and it's here recently, probably in the last maybe month or so, he actually got rehired to direct Guardians 3 again. And when I heard that,
which we are definitely excited for.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
So happy he got rehired.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because, he was in talks with DC when he got quote unquote fired, and then, now he's, revamping the Suicide Squad, so it'll be totally
if there's
different
anybody who can like direct Suicide Squad and actually make it turn out to look and be an amazing movie, it's gonna be James Gunn.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, the last Suicide Squad was all right, but I'm not about that gangster Joker.
Yeah, no.
Not about that.
No.
I definitely think we needed a different Joker in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not my style. I much prefer Heath Ledger's like psychopath.
For sure.
That type of style of a Joker. I think that matches up really nicely with Batman. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know, like if what Heath Ledger did to become the Joker, like if anyone would like take that approach, because that was some. Like that was some crazy stuff he did to actually, get in character and whatnot.
From what I heard, he locked himself in his room for.
Yeah, I think so.
How long was it? You know how long he locked himself up? It was pretty long.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah,
in preparation. When method acting is involved, like you can see some really good examples, like Daniel Day-Lewis, like in Lincoln. Even there he was getting pretty on edge.
That's true. Yeah.
But and then you've got Heath Ledger's version of method acting, which. It turned out to give him like an Oscar, in the end, but it was also kind of affected him psychologically, which is not the best end result for anything, really.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that's like, you could do this and get to this, but at what cost?
Yeah. So. Always comes down to what cost, but it's always cool. I'm kind of a big fan of method acting when you actually get a chance to see it played out, but
absolutely.
I think, if it's done properly and you're able to kind of, I guess, detox, I guess is what I'd call it, like after that, like kind of return back to normality, I think that's good. I think a lot of times we have when we watch movies, we've got such a scripted idea of what like an act would be or what a script should be, that we're so used to this kind of bottled up version that when somebody actually does an act, like when somebody actually acts in like a realistic way, like a real human would, it's kind of off-putting and kind of almost so different that we're kind of more drawn to it. When it comes to genres, do you have a kind of a genre that you like to kind of really hang out in, like influence wise?
Yeah, I would have to say action is probably my favorite, just because and like the next short film that I want to make, like I want to have like a big action scene in it, just because like action is like one of those things, like if done right, it's just very methodical thinking, and you really have to be like, the way the camera is and then the way your actors are, like, it's one of those things. I asked one of my professors about, like, making having two actors fighting in a scene, like how can you get that to look real? And it's like he's like, it's just really all up to your actors, because if your actors don't know exactly what they're doing and how to move and whatnot, then the audience will know. So I think it's
you
just
almost
something.
really need to have some sort of a fight coordinator.
Yeah,
You know?
really.
And they all, I mean, you really have to be all in, you know?
Yeah, which is insane. But yeah, I think action is probably my number one.
Now mine, as funny as it sounds, is going to be low budget dramas. I love low budget dramas. And I'm talking like those movies that you go to see where it's like just about like this family, and then nonsense happens, some shenanigans, and then you end up with like this story about, you know, family getting closer, but you get to find out, you dig deeper into like the different families. So like I'm talking like movies like Lion. What was that movie about? What was it? The one with Meryl Streep. Oh yeah, that Ricky and the Flash. Remember that one?
Actually, I never seen that.
That one was pretty good. So I'm talking like movies like that. Those really super low budget movies where you just go see and there's like maybe you and this old lady in the theater. I mean, you could probably throw a piece of popcorn and hit her and she wouldn't even notice. That kind of old. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But yeah, those are the movies I'm a huge fan of. They're kind of like my guilty pleasure movies.
Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, they can make you cry.
Oh yeah, they can.
Like Lion.
Oh, Lion messed me up.
For sure. Absolutely.
I really like how like when you break down the human experience, especially in movies, I think we get so used to like the cut and dry studio model or the you know, the here let's throw together some different character plots, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is what a person is. You know, it's just we just dissect them down to just simple things. But then you get these drama movies where they spend so much time like really picking apart different problems and really separating them out. I think that's really what gets us the closest to what human experiences, you know, exemplified in like a movie would be. But I think that's kind of the closest, though.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. Like mentioning between the big budgets and then your low to possibly no budget. I'm sure you've heard about what was it, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that. Apple coming out with the Apple TV Plus. I thought that was pretty interesting, and because, and you know how Disney just bought all of Fox's film assets, so they're becoming a monopoly. So that.
Okay, yeah, let's not. I mean, oh man, that's just so tough. I've got kind of this thing, just so you guys know. I've got like this thing against all these companies buying up other companies. For me, it kind of is like, well, now we're limiting the amount of thoughts out there, the amount of different opinions, different ideas,
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way, but I think what's really neat is we have all these streaming services now. So we have Apple TV Plus, we have Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, and also eventually we'll have Disney Plus. But all these streaming services are like they're almost going to just original content. I mean, that's what Apple TV Plus will be. It's just all original content. I think they spent over $1 billion on just
Seriously?
that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I think it'll allow for people like us to, make our way into that and be able to be like, hey, pitch to Apple TV Plus, Netflix, because, they're having more and more originals, rather than trying to break into these big $100-200 million budget movies.
For real?
But which is
oh yeah. We've had conversations about that before, about like trying to make it into those big budget movies. I think you're 100% correct though, because like even though they're buying up all these assets and you're all these different movie franchises are gonna be all owned by one company, I think it is cool for independent artists to finally get more of a chance to make their own content. And definitely when we're talking like, I mean, we've seen it happen with Netflix, and Amazon Prime. Those ones right there are like prime examples of, no pun intended, of how like you can have a company take a piece of art and then just put it out there for the masses to see, which is pretty cool. And because I mean, you'll see this more and more. Like people aren't actually going to theaters as much anymore to see movies; they're doing more streaming. So I think it's cool that now we actually have more options, you know, and definitely a chance as it progresses for more independent artists to actually get their work out there.
Yeah, because like you said, like people are really only going to the movies to see the big movies, your
For real.
superhero, like your tentpole movies. It's just so yeah, it'll be interesting.
Can you imagine a superhero that's actually a tent? I mean, I don't know what his name would be, but
yeah, no kidding.
Captain
Tent Man.
Captain Tent Man. Captain Flap. Oh man.
But yeah, I'm really interested to see what Apple TV Plus is going to. I'll definitely be subscribing to it, just because I was reading about it, and one of their shows has Steve Carell, Reese Witherspoon, and Jennifer Aniston.
Now, I love me some of that Silver Fox. Did you see that article where they called Steve Carell the Silver Fox?
Yep, I sure
Oh my gosh,
did.
anything with Steve Carell in it, I will watch it. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that new movies in, but I mean, huge fan of The Office. Huge fan of when he was an Anchorman. Loved Anchorman.
Yep.
Loved him in pretty much anything he's been in. Even 40-Year-Old Virgin. Love that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Super funny.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, as soon as I can see anything with Steve Carell in it, I'll see it. That's for sure.
To be honest with you, I can't tell you how many times I've been through The Office within the past 2 years.
It's one of those great shows where you can like just turn it on in the background and just listen to it.
Really?
You know, sometimes when I'm working, I'll turn it on, or if I'm like cleaning or something, just turn it on.
Yep.
It's great. I think one of the other big genres for me is definitely dark comedy.
Oh, okay.
Now, I come from kind of a sheltered home life, but for me, I always like dark comedies because I always kind of had a darkly comedic sense of humor, so for me, and also it's kind of like you always want to see how the other side of life lives, the other group of people, so it's kind of cool to see, this is what terrible people are like.
Yep.
Let's see what the terrible way life can be is, but it's also funny, And so I like that. I also find that, like, a lot of times they'll do, like, a juxtaposition where they'll put something that's not funny next to something funny.
Yep.
And it makes it even better. So, I mean, I love it how one of the big ones that I love is Harold and Maude. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
From the 70s.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Now, that one, that's a classic. That one I love. That one, 100%. And then also, Tarantino's another one. Tarantino's always making big films that are always dark comedies.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like people are like, oh, like some of the things he puts in his movies, but yeah,
I mean, yeah, when you look back at, like in Pulp Fiction, for instance, like that whole conversation between Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta when they're talking about like the foot massage, that whole scene, that is hilarious. And then you just that one and the was it the Big Mac Royale, or is like remember what that one was? Is something Big Mac.
Oh, okay,
remember
I
the
do.
cheeseburger from like, was it France?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that. And then they just go around. They just start shooting people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wait,
that
what?
To me is hilarious. Oh man. So you've got James Gunn. Who else is kind of like? Do you have any genres that are kind of? You said action, right?
Yeah. And then, a lot of Ron Howard's films I really like.
Ron Howard.
Just because I was listening to some podcasts that he was on, and he was like talking about like what he does, like how he directs his actors and whatnot, and he says, they'll be at the beginning of one scene and he'll just let, he won't give any direction for the first time. He'll just let the actor do, what they think will be right, and then he'll go back in and direct and whatnot. But I think it was also interesting because he always mentions how, like, you always need to know when to let go, like really for any genre, really. If a scene's not working right and you just do take after take after take, it's like one of those things. It's like, is it really that important where you really have to get that? So
I think that's a big thing for a lot of people to learn is how to like let go of things,
Oh, for sure.
especially in art. I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many times because I'm kind of a perfectionist, as you
Yep.
as you very well know. Yeah, the amount of nights we've spent up all night long editing films after films. Yeah. I'm kind of a perfectionist. So yeah, for me, that's a big lesson I'm trying to learn, trying to teach myself every day is how to let go and how to just move on from a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's hard when you've done that and then you've got your person who you're working for tells you, hey, now you can go make edits on that, even though you just finished it.
Yep. Exactly.
Now that's kind of a pain, and that kind of keeps you in that same mindset. But
Mm-hmm.
that being said, it is good. It is good practice to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love Ron Howard's films. Did you
Yep.
see was it Heart of the Sea? In the Heart of the Sea?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Now that was good. Chris Hemsworth.
Oof, yeah.
I thought
it
the
was
color
really
grading
good.
was pretty crazy. I thought it was very stylistic,
Yep.
so I liked that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think also, like another genre though that I do like that I have actually recently started liking is documentaries.
Yes.
Like-
shout out to documentaries.
I tell ya.
Hashtag documentaries.
That stuff is not easy.
Documentaries?
Like,
Oh
yeah.
no. Documentaries are crazy. I love documentaries.
I mean, you and Bryson made one.
Yeah,
was that the
yeah.
last year's school?
Mhm.
that you guys
Yeah,
did?
yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, and obviously you probably won't know because we're not really known for anything out there in the world. But my friend Bryce and I, as James was talking about there, we actually made a documentary at Ball State about foreign exchange students coming over and how their interaction with American students was like. And so that was pretty interesting. You know, we actually got to sit down with a number of them, at least over 20 different foreign exchange students, you know, from China, Japan, Bangladesh. We had a couple from there, and also we had a couple from the Middle East. So we sat down with all of them, and we actually talked to them about what their experiences were like. We actually had one from Germany as well. So yeah, we had some from Europe. So it's kind of all over the place.
Dang.
And so we actually got to sit down with them, talk to them about what their experiences were like compared to like overseas or wherever they were at.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty cool. And then we actually had a really cool conversation where we talked with a foreign exchange student and their roommate, which was even cooler because we got to have them in the same room and actually get them feeding off of each other.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's always interesting with documentaries because it's like you'll have the director and you'll shoot everything, and then when you go to edit it, like when you edit it in the editing process, you're like that's where you find the story.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That's where you're like basically writing the script.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like-
it's like that they always say you make the movie 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you make the movie when you write it, you make the movie when you direct it, and you write the movie when you're editing it.
Yeah,
You know?
it was. There was a podcast I was actually listening to on the way here, and there's this guy. He's an editor for documentaries, and he's like, with your narrative films, he said, with your narrative films, you start small and you go big, but with documentaries, you start big and you go small. I was
100%.
like,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Having done 2 documentaries now, yeah, I definitely 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one, I did one for school that one time.
Yeah,
Remember that one? So my final project for all of college was to make a 30-minute documentary about a singing group here in Fort Wayne, which is where I actually live in Indiana. Yep, we are some Indiana boys. But we were making a documentary about a singing group here in Fort Wayne, and it was insane. I think we had like a month to shoot, to plan it out, shoot it, edit it together, and then also make a 30-minute, 15-minute, and also a couple 5-minute stingers of the actual project. So we had to like put all those together, and then then that was like our final project of all of college, and so it was pretty insane. We definitely had, I think, almost a terabyte worth of actual footage. As crazy as it is. And then we had to take all of that and break it all down into multiple different project files there was like 4 of us working on it at one time.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I even remember being in the editing bay with you nights upon nights.
Yeah. And then we had to like so each person would like edit their own segment, and then we would combine it all together, and then I edited the final copy. But it was crazy.
Man, that's insane. Just thinking when I brought up about like being in, us being in the editing bays, the amount of times, because our big thing was Coke Zero.
Oh yeah.
And the amount of times,
as we like to call it, the nectar.
Yep.
The nectar.
And the amount of times we went back and forth to get a Coke Zero was.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things that I remember from that time period was like, what am I saying from the time period? What are we, like, super old?
Yeah.
For real. No, but from back then was definitely how we were the only ones in that whole entire building.
For sure.
Yeah, we just loved it. We loved working on those projects so much that we were just there in the editing labs, just us for nights.
I mean, yeah, there was when we were editing No Man's Land. There was nights where you fell asleep at the computer. You were just like clicking things still. It's like, hey, Micah.
Yeah. What I forget. I don't even remember what button it was. Yeah, like I fell asleep and I kept hitting it might have been the space bar, and I fell asleep editing at the computer. But that's how you love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
When you are able to like stay up hours, nights, just keep working on your craft. I think that's kind of how this is something you actually care about.
Yeah, and it's like when you're not paid for it like that. I think that's something else too, where it's just like,
because hell yeah, we were not paid in
for
college
sure
for that type of stuff. Yeah, and putting together, like, I've noticed this nowadays where like I've done projects, I'm like, man, I wish I really loved what I was doing for those projects, because I would have spent so much more time on it. I think that's why it's so important for people to really get a chance to discover what it is they really want to do and what they want to create, especially for people who love art, and kind of help break that down, because it is really important.
For sure, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I think that's something that's never going to go away. And there's always different forms, and it's just like, it's crazy because it's so big. You get such a wide variety.
That's something that I've always really appreciated, was like learning about other people's forms of art. Because I know, like, we obviously love movies, but I think one of the coolest things is kind of learning about other people's art forms, like music, for instance. And then like something else was like not just music, but also like I was just about to say music again. I mean, like actual like painting and sculpture, that type of stuff. That's really cool. Even theater, and because I love theater. I love theater, sure. Musicals, that type of stuff as well. So yeah. Yeah,
I know, because it's just like with us being like filmmakers, and my girlfriend actually, she's an artist, and it's just really interesting to see like what's different, like between like the thinking is the thinking of creating is is pretty much the same, but the way it differs is just really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm definitely excited to definitely get some more like Indiana artists on our podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Yep. Even though we're just getting started with this thing, I think we definitely have big hopes for it. So I definitely think it'd be cool to get local artists on, friends that we have that are artists, just to have them talk about their art forms and and kind of get them involved in the conversation. I mean, obviously this podcast right here is going to develop over time, but
yeah, absolutely.
I think right now it's definitely film centric. That's for sure.
Yep.
I think I think so. I'd definitely say film centric for a while, but I think we're also going to start trying to rope in some more like life, different things into our podcast, because I think we've kind of decided on the name CineVibe because it was about film, but it also was like, we could also put something else into this. We could talk about what we're learning every day in our lives, or where we want to go with different things, what we're becoming, because like we're obviously we're very early in any type of career that we're going to be in. And I think it's cool because a lot of times you hear a lot of podcasts where people are really already involved in their in their craft.
Yeah.
And I think where we're kind of a little different is that we are just starting. We're just kind of digging deep into what we really want to do as like a life choice, and I think that's what really makes it very different for us.
Yeah, kind of something to like give other people value. The people that are like down in the slums and stuff like that. Be like, hey, it's possible.
Yeah, and I mean for younger people who are just trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to listen to people talk about how they're actually doing it instead of just listening to people talk about how they did it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're very similar when you kind of break them down, but they're also pretty different.
Yeah, because I think you have more respect for the people. Not that you don't have respect for the people that are already in it, but I think you have more respect for the people that have started, something like this podcast and working way up until like what we want to be.
Yeah, definitely. And as our Papa Gary always says,
Yep.
content. Make that content.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, you guys will probably find this out, but we're definitely huge fans of Gary Vee.
Yep.
Definitely love Gary Vee.
Absolutely.
The guy is very inspirational, definitely gets us pumped up for things.
Sure does.
Even those trash talk videos where he's going out and going garage sailing and flipping stuff. Man, it just made me want to go out there and just start doing garage sailing.
Yeah, exactly.
So exciting.
Yep. Oh, man.
Just threw me back to my childhood, sitting in my car seat.
Yep, exactly.
To go. Yeah, we used to go garage sailing back in the day.
Oh, same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom would leave us in the car.
Oh,
yeah,
dang.
with the windows rolled up. Got real hot. I think I lost quite a few brain cells. I'm not really entirely sure how much. Some of them are just days off, and I lose all sense of where I'm at. So
I know I would always when my parents or grandparents would take me there to garage sales and whatnot. I'd be like, "Can I get a toy? Can I get a toy?"
Oh yeah, I was always on the hunt for those movies.
Yeah, well that too. Yeah,
DVDs.
Yep.
I remember how excited I was when I found Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith.
Oh.
I found that one, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to get this movie right now."
Yeah.
I just went super ASMR right there.
Speaking of Star Wars, it was probably almost a month ago now. I was in Oregon, and we went to a antique shop, and I found, I think it was episode 1 on VHS.
No way.
I was like, oh, yes.
There you go. Was it still wrapped?
What's that?
Was it still wrapped?
No, it wasn't still wrapped, but it was in really good condition.
Woo!
Yeah.
There you go. That's something to keep on a mantle.
Oh, for sure. Yep, absolutely.
Put it inside a little box.
Mm-hmm. Well, me and my brothers used to have, I think it was it was 5, 6, and 7 on VHS. I don't know what happened to them.
I think I have number 1 on VHS too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
And then I've got number 2 recorded on VHS. Oh yeah. Got it off of TNT back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, that's something my grandparents, my mom's dad, he did a lot was, record stuff off the TV and whatnot. Yep.
Yeah, whenever I used to record things, I would then take the DVD or whatever I recorded to, put it in a box, and then I would go on the computer and design artwork for it.
Yep.
I mean, not gonna lie, I still do that nowadays, but I'm not recording them anymore because who records things off of on discs? I mean,
exactly.
It's not as easy as it was.
For surely not. Yeah. Not at all.
Especially now when you can just stream everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Oh wow. Yeah, I was always on the hunt for either DVDs or I was on the hunt for anything Apple. Any type of Apple iPod. Oh, look at that. There's an iPod. But then you go to those garage sales, they're always trying to gouge you for prices. They're like, oh, look, this iPod right here. It's from the first gen, back in the day when those first gens were super cheap.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, hey, yeah, I want $500 for you. Like, this is a garage sale. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Why are you trying to sell something for $500 at a garage sale? Somebody's just gonna walk off with it.
Yeah, and then you're gonna get home and it's like, oh man, this doesn't work.
Gosh. Yeah. Oh wow. All right. Well, speaking of life, James. Speaking of life. So what's something that you've learned this week? So this is kind of another segment we want to kind of jump into. We want to talk about kind of things that we're learning, because obviously we are more than just film buffs, film people. We're not. I don't think we're buff, but we're just film.
Yeah, that's true.
Just film lovers in general. We definitely want to kind of talk about things we're learning every week. So what's something you're kind of learning right now, or something that you've learned here recently about life or about yourself?
Yeah, I actually. So for the past, I would say about 6 months or so, things have been pretty stressful and whatnot. And I've just been kind of writing a lot and whatnot, and
been writing in a journal, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And something that I have like found out is that like stress is just like it's either past or future.
Hell yeah.
So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's never in the moment. So it's like, money
Mhm.
issues, whatever. And I think here recently, I'd say probably the last 2 or so months, I've been able to be like, okay, to be able to leave everything in the past,
Mhm.
what's done is done.
Yeah.
And to be able to actually move on and focus on. I used to be a person that would focus on the future so much, be like, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this.
Mhm.
But I've recently been able, like, I've taken a step back and be like, hey, I really need to, like, chill and, like, just enjoy where I am right now. Because if I don't do that, then I'm going to lose everything around.
Lose out how much you have right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I definitely agree with that. There's something, I forget what podcast. I was probably on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, yep.
I know I'm going to be talking about Joe Rogan a lot, but man, I love his podcast. But one of the things that's kind of interesting is he talks about like there's the state of flow where like you are, and it's not his idea. I mean, it's a general idea, but where you're at peace where you are in that situation because you're just moving along with it at the same speed. You're not trying to get ahead too quick. You're not, dragging your feet because of like past experiences and stuff. You're kind of just living in the now. So it's definitely where you're kind of going with that. I definitely agree with that. And I was like, stress is ridiculous. Stress will kill you.
I tell you, yeah, it's.
And I know I've talked to you I talked to you this about before, but like I heard this, I forget where I was listening to it, but somebody said that like stress is like sugar for your teeth, but it's like stress is the sugar like on your teeth, but also on the inside of you. So like over time, that's just like how sugar will kill your teeth. It's just gonna kill you on the inside.
Yeah, really.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, and it's hard because like you can't really avoid stress all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible. Yeah, it's
just kind of about like picking the best stress. Like what kind of stress can I endure without getting too crazy with it?
Yeah, because it's like a lot of things. A lot of things don't necessarily need the stress.
Yeah,
it's just it happens because that's when like I've gotten people to come to me and be like, I'm so stressed and this and this and this. I'm just like, okay, well, it's just like, is it something that you should really be stressed about? Is there other aspects of your life where you can look at and whatnot? So
yeah, I mean, and kind of branching off of that, I've been kind of listening to this book. So yes, I can read for those wondering. But I also like to listen to audiobooks on my way to work. It's either going to be podcasts or it's going to be audiobooks on my way to work. I used to listen to music all the time, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. One of the books I've been really into right now is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Ah, yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Really love it. One of the big things, now a lot of people are thinking, man, Micah, you just got real explicit on us right now. Right at the end of the podcast, you're just going to drop this on me. And no, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, that's the name of the book. There's a lot of F-bombs in this book. But let me tell you, it's kind of a nice breakdown of, what should you actually care about in life and why some people care more about things than others do and why you shouldn't care about every little thing in life because it will kill you. Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the big things I've been kind of learning right now. And one of the cool things about it is that they also talk about like the difference between blame and responsibility. Because there's a lot of people in our lives. I'm sure you have some. I definitely have some. A lot of the ones I've got.
Yeah.
But talking about like, even though that somebody might be to blame for something that happened in your life, they're not responsible for fixing it. It's ultimately up to you and ultimately up to what, your own happiness to really be responsible for fixing what's wrong. That's something I only here recently started learning about. Was because I've always had like this point, and we're about to get real deep right now, about like how I've always had like certain people where I blame them for certain things that happened in my life, but I think it really comes down to finally taking responsibility and being like, you know what, now it's time for me to start making changes, starting to put myself in a position where I can get out of whatever I put myself into, and I think that's really important for something to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned it about opinions, like especially like other people's opinions, like really they don't matter. Like
yeah.
I mean
it's one of those things that goes back to that whole future and future and past situation where like you can either constantly care about people's opinions about you and constantly be stuck where you're at, or you could care not at all, and then you're gonna end up being a jerk. So you have to find like you have to find that nice middle ground where you care enough to be able to watch out, but also not care enough where you're not also stuck, always worried.
Yeah, really. Especially, the obviously, the negativity and everything is just kind of like you really have to block that out. And it sucks because it's like that's something that's really hard to do. And there's so much of that in the world today. But it could definitely be done.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that I also started thinking about today, so I work in sales. I also work retail sales, so it's a little different. But one of the things I was got to think about today at my job was like, man, art, life without doing some sort of art is utterly meaningless to me.
Absolutely. I remember you texted me about that.
I texted you as soon as I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, yep, gotta text James this real quick. But yeah, that's one of the things I got to think about because I was thinking about, oh man, I could just be selling every day of my life and I will just be miserable. So I'm like, I gotta do something, and it's not for everybody. I mean, not everybody's going to be an artist. Not everybody's going to be, like have to make art of some kind. But I know for me and I, we're kind of the same person in a lot of ways where we have to make art. We have to create something. We have to experiment with new art because it's kind of what gives us some sort of life to us,
Yep. It allows us to keep our sanity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we get to explore our own inner psyche with art.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that is 100%. Because I've had points in my life already, and not gonna lie, I'm only like 24. Yeah, I had to think about it. 20. I mean, I'm telling you, your 20s all kind of lumped together.
Yeah, they for sure do.
Yep. But I mean, I'm only 24, and I already have experienced where it's like I've had points in my life where I haven't been actually making art, and I've realized how cramped I feel, how I don't feel like I'm actually doing anything, and where I'm not actually achieving anything I want to. I'm not having a good time. I'm just kind of going along with whatever's being thrown at me instead of actually starting to decide what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of those things where when you can like finally decide that's a huge pivotal moment. So. Wow.
Well, James, I am just now checking on our clock. We are at 58 minutes.
Wow. Yeah,
as
no
crazy
kidding.
as it sounds.
That is, wow.
Yeah,
that went fast.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
We can talk literally for hours, just us together. And so it's pretty cool that it's something we can actually do where we can actually distribute something fun for people to listen to.
Yeah.
Obviously, those of you who are listening to this in the past, those of you who are listening right now, it's going to sound, oh, this is just who they are. People who are listening from the future, coming back to listen to this one, you're like, man, that's not their best podcast. But let me tell you what, it's going to get a lot better.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Don't worry about that. We just got to make things, we got to get it out of our system. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, you always got to make the bad stuff before you make the good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to let you guys know, thank you for joining us today. This has been CineVibe with Micah and James. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to pull out another podcast. We're going to pull it out of thin air. I'm actually about to record it right now. But so just stay tuned for that. It's going to be out very shortly. So thank you once again for taking time out of your day to listen to us. Just shoot the breeze, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.